After keen contest to get to the National Assembly, another keen contest awaits those who intend to wield the gavel in the red and green chambers. 34 days and counting to the handover day, President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu returns to Nigeria. Political associates and development experts comment on his to-do list. As regional and ethnic lobbying begin in terms of consideration for key positions in the incoming administration, gender advocates caution that the women folk would not stand being shoved aside. Permit the pun. Also on political update today, Group 6 stiffer penalties for electoral offenders. We have these and more in a moment. I am Fisayo Ogunfuyi. Welcome. President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu is back in Nigeria after a month-long break in Paris. The president-elect arrived the country via the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport Monday evening. Tinubu is returning with just over a month to the presidential handover date of May 29. The president-elect is believed to be at the crucial stage of strategizing on key roles and decisions to take to hit the ground running as the incoming administration takes shape.
There were an unusual number of visitors on a work-free day as all roads led to the presidential wing of the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. Attention was focused and the cameras were set to capture the moment. APC loyalists and close allies were on ground, all eyes trained on a well-manned entrance. Some even braved the security barriers. All they wanted was to see their president-elect, who has been on vacation in France for 35 days. And finally, the man fondly called the city boy was back in the capital city. President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu was on ground in more ways than one. The president-elect, beaming smiles after a well-earned rest, has apparently returned with much energy, and perhaps some strategy is needed for a smooth takeoff of his administration in another 35 days. Back to his Asokoro residence, Bola Tinubu reunited with his vice president-elect, Senator Kashim Shettima. He insisted on talking to his teaming followers who came visiting and allayed their fears about the rumored health issue.
See me now?
No more speculation.
I'm standing before you. So, do I look like somebody who is sick? Whatever they like, they speculate. I'm healthy as sun, and I'm okay.
We're already talking about your administration and what it will look like. Can you give us a glimpse into what you have in plan?
I can't. I've not consulted people yet. And administration, you said, is not run alone. You don't govern alone. You govern with people.
We know that he went to rest, but of course, if you know Bola Ashwaju, you will know that he is one person who has gone to prepare for the 4 years ahead of him.
Now he's back to plan how to, by the grace of God, how to take over the reign of this country when the president is sworn in.
And so the president-elect is back to his private residence in Asokoro here in Abuja. Not so much has been put out yet as regards its upcoming events, but certainly his priorities will include setting up a team that will work with him as he had promised to hit the ground running as from the first day in office.
To other issues now, the civil society group, Gender Strategy Advancement International, has urged institutions to stop paying lip service to the inclusion of Nigerian women in governance. This is coming on the heels of the expected principal officers to lead the 10th Assembly.
The incoming government.
The need to tackle the structural and social barriers that prevent women from fully participating in politics informed this meeting. Gender Strategy Advancement International identifies such barriers to include discriminatory laws, gender stereotypes, and violence against women in politics.
only 15 states in Nigeria have women in their state assemblies, and the rest don't. So we need to really demand that these issues follow through the National Gender Policy revised.
Women aspirants for the leadership of the next National Assembly, especially the House of Representatives, should be given a chance by members-elect. Gender Strategy Advancement International appeals. The 5 gender bills not passed by the 9th Assembly may be considered by a female speaker to compensate the decline of women in the past election.
Several issues, but let's start from somewhere. The return of the president-elect to Abuja on Monday may have sharpened the focus of the key men in the ruling party in the areas of interest as the incoming leaders get prepared to take the reins. In the legislative arm, many have indicated interest to serve as the first among equals in the Senate and the House of Representatives. It is indeed another leadership tussle with great implications on the direction of state for the next 4 years. Nkem Anyata Lafia, National Publicity Secretary of the Parliamentary Advocacy Network, joins us today. Let's start like this before we go into issues of leadership and issues of the legislature in general. Are you satisfied with the body of legislative interventions made by the current assembly?
Of course, very much yes. But let me start this by welcoming the president-elect to the country after a well-deserved 35-day rest, and also congratulate the ruling party on that particular moment of anxiety that has been made to just wear off like that. We do know that His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a man of strategy, and we believe that in the next few years, in the next few days, in the next few weeks, what we'll be seeing will be the miracle that we have expected from him all of this period. Yes, you asked what I have seen about the body of interventions in the ending 9th Assembly. The 9th Assembly, if you recall, came into view at a time in 2015 when the baton, 2019, when the baton of leadership that changed from one party to the other in 2015 was going into its second tenure. What I mean by this is that Buhari, having sat for a particular tenure, was going into another tenure. So what needed to happen was this usual alignment where people from diverse political parties, especially in parliament, always seek to go or align with themselves with other political parties as events unfold, as activities begin. So expectedly, in 2019, that happened, and what it resulted in was the upping of the numbers by which APC became a majority in the House of Representatives as well as in the Senate. So all of these justifications were able to bring a House or a National Assembly that was quite cohesive, a National Assembly that was prepared to, as it were, collaborate, cooperate with the executive arm of government to provide what is usually needed in politics, especially at the level of our own kind of politics, where our agenda at the legislature should be driven towards development. And so if you ask that question, what I see is saying that we have seen a National Assembly that is quite amenable to what the executive wants, and to a very large extent, it's been able to contribute to the robustness of what we have seen in terms of the number of bills passed, in terms of the number of motions that have been raised in the House and been acted upon. So all of these things, and the other branch, the other area that I tend to think that has also been there is what we call diplomatic legislation, where there have been these interventions of the legislature in things that have to do with diplomacy, where Nigerians' association with other parts of the world have been able to come under the crucible and the lens of the National Assembly, to the extent that the National Assembly has been able to perfect ways of coming into and acting in ways that are regarded even quite novel for a National Assembly to be able to interfere, as it were, or intervene in affairs.
Mr. Nkem, Ayata Lafia, let's, also put this now in proper perspective in terms of what will happen.
Okay.
We're in the corridor. of an exchange. Some are going to be dropping the reins while new ones will pick it up. What you just, the picture you drew was one of, perhaps everybody looking in the same direction in terms of cohesiveness. But this time, the makeup of the National Assembly will see a lot of new interventions in terms of the number of new parties involved in the decision-making processes and the sheer number of freshers that will be getting into the National Assembly. What is the task before the incoming Assembly with this, quite considerable number of new members?
Well, like everything in life, I always say that variety is all that you need. We have a lot of new breeds. We have a lot of new people who are coming into the National Assembly, a bit for the very first time. We want to see robustness in what they're doing. We want to see activities. We want to see the promotion of vibrancy. The National Assembly has always been a place where the best of the brains come to play from across the country. So what we're expecting from the 10th National Assembly will not be anything less. So as we speak, we have people from diverse political parties. For the very first time, if you understand, more political parties, or the most number of political parties have been part or are going to be part of this 10th Assembly. And what does that tell us? It tells us that people are coming from different political nuances and leanings. And all it means is that in a democracy, vibrancy, checks, balances are going to be very much in play. But then here is a National Assembly that is expected to perform more than every National Assembly, because the onus lies on them now, since the stakes are higher, to do their best to be able to give the country and indeed the entire world what is required, what is expected of this 10th Assembly.
When I look at the caption of your name, Parliamentary Advocacy Network of your group, are you setting an agenda for the incoming members of the National Assembly? If so, in what direction?
Parliamentary Advocacy Network is a group of National Assembly, we call it legislative activists, journalists, and many people who have had things to do with the National Assembly for an upward of even 20-something years, since 1999, even some of them since 1992. So this body is quite, it has come from very heterogeneous backgrounds, the members I mean, and they've come together to decide that it's important that we have a National Assembly that ought to be people-centered, a National Assembly that will pander to the yearnings of the Nigerian masses. And what this body has sought to do is to be able to align the National Assembly with what the people are feeling the National Assembly ought to do. And in doing so, we will set agenda, we will sponsor bills, we will do things, private member bills and all of those things we will encourage, we will lobby, and every of those things that go to making a National Assembly vibrant. The Parliamentary Advocacy Network, with our array of professionals, array of enthusiasts, array of activists, will be able to do all of this in the years ahead.
All right, we'll come to the second part of our discussion before we close shop, but let's take a few stories. Votes Must Count Initiative International, a civil society group, has urged law enforcement agencies and anti-corruption authorities to make more telling moves to ensure that violators of the Electoral Act are swiftly brought to book, and that the collation of votes is done in strict compliance with the law. The group suggests that perpetrators of other electoral crimes must also be aggressively prosecuted to act as deterrent.
The judiciary must kickstart the proceedings of the presidential election petition trials so early judgment can be given ahead of the May 29 handover date.
We must use our voices and we must reach out to each other. We must build our networks of support and we must coordinate our actions. One of the most important things we can do is to make our voices heard. Just like my colleague Barry Avotu has done, and just like we are doing Vote Must Count initiative.
We say no to election result manipulation. Security agencies infraction. We say no to undue judicial judgment. We say no to financial inducement at all levels. All this must stop.
Right. You're still watching Political Update on the network service of Nigerian Television Authority this Tuesday. We still have Nkem Lafia, National Publicity Secretary of the Parliamentary Advocacy Network. He joins us and he's been talking about the makeup of the National Assembly. Now, Nkem, thank you for joining us and staying with us. Let's now look at the agitations for the past few weeks. Ethnic, gender, like you saw in one of the stories there, and even in terms of regions. What are the considerations this time around? And of course, we also need to have a place for competence when we're talking about the leadership of the National Assembly in the two chambers.
Of course, as
litigations on the aftermath of the February 25 presidential election, major opposition political parties have rejected the polls, while the Department of State Services, DSS, had also confirmed plans by some persons to disrupt the forthcoming transition of power slated for May 29, 2023. Nigerian Peace Advocates, a non-governmental organization, is concerned at what they described as the continuous promotion of incitement and uncomplimentary statement from some aggrieved politicians and other enemies of the country who have also systematically taken cover under the pretext of the conduct of elections to cause chaos and disharmony among citizens.
We are not in any way siding with anybody, but we are siding with our own country because the country belongs to us.
As a nation, we need peace. We need unity.
The negative situation that is on trial, they say, needs nothing less than a holistic healing of the wound and reconciliation to salvage and secure the country from imminent threat of disunity. Meanwhile, the Leadership Council of the Initiatives, an agenda-setting college of former and serving National Assembly members, at a media interaction in Abuja, are appealing to the political parties and their senators-elect to zone the position of the President of the Senate to the south, as well as microzone it to the south-south for equity and justice.
That's what I said, Senator, God's will away and back. It is best for this job.
The unity of Nigeria is above every other consideration, the group emphasized.
All right, that was Center for Peace, cautioning opposition parties against crisis, but we just perhaps jumped the gun a little. We were still continuing with our discussion, but that is just topical. Looking at the, the closing part of that report in Nkem Lafia, you saw still some agitations in terms of where this should go and that in the two chambers. We saw earlier in the program where gender was discussed. Now it's an issue of region, and some are even saying just look at competence as well. Where do you come in all this, and are you looking in any direction as well?
The Parliamentary Advocacy Network, if you have followed our leadership discussion series and the entire trajectory in the last 2 months or so, we have insisted that this particular thing called the leadership of our nation should be brought up in such a way that every part of our country is represented, that every part of our demography is also represented. We're talking gender inclusivity, we're talking ethnic issues, we're talking religion, we're talking balancing, we're talking equity, we're talking fairness. And what do all these portray? What do they imply? Since we have two major religions, we are saying that there is need to balance whatever we are going to do at the level of our national representation, in terms of our religious differences, in terms of our ethnic or regional differences, and in terms of inclusivity, even for the physically challenged. And this is the mantra that we have continued to promote in the last 2 months. Again, it's important to point out here that in doing all of this, there is still a place for competence. There is a place for character. There is a place for an ability to be able to wield some kind of influence that we get involved all parts of maybe the National Assembly, and not just somebody who cannot stand the stake when it comes to appeal to members.
The last report was talking about the Senate, but let's look at the House of Representatives, for instance. So many people have thrown their hats in the ring. The ruling party said it's not come out with its own ideas to what it's going to talk about in terms of zoning. But for instance, what are early interventions? Very quickly.
I like to also say that in spite of all that we are doing, our advocacies and other ways through which we want to set agenda in the minds of members of this particular 10th Assembly, the onus of the final decision that should guide very much these particular ideas that we're trying to put in the public space will still come from the ruling party, the APC, which has a majority in the Senate particularly. Again, I understand it also has a majority in the House of Representatives. And that is not to say that one does not recognize the handful of political parties that are amassing together to say that they are, in a whole, already controlling the majority of the numbers. But what is it saying to us? What this is saying to us, that people are coming from all nuances of life, from all professions, from diverse areas of the country to come and lay claim to who becomes what. For instance, in the Senate, there is this particular popular thinking that it should go to the South. Again, I listened to our former member, Esebe Oyibo, who said it should be zoned to the South. That is a position of the Parliamentary Advocacy Network. But again, we have not been able to tell the party or to say it should be micro-zoned to a particular area. Already there are people who qualify, very big gentlemen. From the southeast, you have former Governor Joseph Kalu. From the southeast again, you have Senator Osita Zunazo. From the south, you have Abiu, who is from the south. And all of these people more than qualify. We cannot say that we have found them wanting in terms of the competence they need to be able to work together, governance the activities of the National Assembly. And you can say ditto for the House of Representatives, where you have a lot of them. People who have been, the former speaker is there. He's coming from the North, the present deputy speaker coming from the North Central. And again, we have people from the Northwest, where it seems that the preponderance of opinion is treating to. We have Sani Jaji, Honorable Sani Jaji. We have Sada Soli. We have who has been a member of the House, who has been a member of management, who has been even everything in that particular place, including his other of his compatriots from the whole areas. And all of this is, what do they point to? That we do not like the men, we do not like the women who have the capacity, who have the potential. Again, let me also remind us of one of the ladies who is in the midst from the southeast, Madam Onoha, who is equally laying claim. And we have applauded it at the level of our organization that it is not just going to be a man's world here. Since they have contributed in nation building, women have contributed in everything that the nation stands for. So I think it's also time that we gave them such opportunity to be able to show a face somewhere.
All right, that's how much we can take on the show. Many times the talk and agitation will continue, and already we saw a number of posters even in the House of in the Assembly and all that. We'll see how that pans out in the course of this. But of course, like I said earlier in the program, it is the corridor where some will drop the reins and new ones will pick it up. From now to May 29, Nigerians are getting ready to see exactly what will unfold in all the spheres of governance, both from the national to the state levels of politicking. My name is Fisa Ogunfe, thanking you for being a part of it and urging you to keep on watching the Nigerian Television Authority, as we have several programs lined up in this time to make sure that we set the template and we set you in the mood as we get towards the handover date. Keep on watching the Nigerian Television Authority for news, reviews, previews, and interviews. And I can always say, do play your politics for the greater good. Bye bye now.